Greetings, comet chasers. March is shaping up to be an eventful month for comet observers, with one comet visible through binoculars and two more through small telescopes from dark sites. 12P/Pons-Brooks is especially noteworthy as it begins its final approach to the Sun. Adding to the excitement, we introduce 13P/Olbers, which is accessible in small telescopes from both hemispheres. C2021 S3 PANSTARRS remains a fixture in the southern hemisphere, and another new comet, C2023 A3 Tsuchinshan-ATLAS, is set to become readily observable at the very end of the month. 12P/Pons-Brooks is a northern hemisphere evening comet, visible in binoculars and small telescopes. For those new to its journey, it's a well-documented Halley-type comet with an orbital period of 71 years, possibly observed as early as the year 245. It was observed in telescopes in 1884 and 1954, revealing fascinating details within its coma as seen in sketches made at the eyepiece. The comet burst into the limelight in late July with a significant outburst, jumping from magnitude 16.6 to 11.6 in a single day. This event unveiled a unique coma shape, marked by a distinctive notch and a pair of horns that persisted for weeks. Subsequent outbursts have occurred roughly monthly, each diminishing in size, yet following roughly the same visual pattern. Currently, the coma's increased brightness might obscure these smaller inner features, making them more challenging to image, yet these features may now become visible in the eyepiece due to the advantages of the human eye. This comet begins the month in Andromeda at magnitude 6.7, featuring a 7.5 arc-minute coma with a diffuse spot of condensation at its center, showing moderate condensation. It's expected to brighten rapidly, transitioning into Aries by the month's end, with current predictions placing it around magnitude 5. From the northern hemisphere, it will be easily observable in a small telescope throughout the month. Although it will technically become brighter, there's no specific night that stands out for observation. Despite some reports, its visibility won't significantly improve in April, barring some sort of event. Begin by looking for it in the bright evening twilight, and as it gets dark, keep trying to spot it. It will be setting, so the sooner you spot it in twilight, the better. As the sky darkens, your view will improve until it is too low in the sky. It will start at about 20 degrees above the northwest horizon at the beginning of the month, lowering to 14 degrees by its end. It will appear slightly higher for observers in the far north. Near the equator, it may be glimpsed low in the sky from the evening of March 26th onward, on its way to becoming a southern hemisphere object in April. 12P is not heavy with dust, so it's not going to be as large and bright as Comet Neowise was in 2020. It is likely to remain small in binoculars, so we recommend using a telescope instead. Think of spotting it in binoculars as an interesting exercise and good practice for spotting small fuzzballs. The real action will be in a telescope. Use a low-power eyepiece to find it, center it, and then increase the magnification as much as practical. Take your time looking for features in the inner coma, such as the dark notch, jets, and fountains, especially in the days following an outburst. Try a simple sketch at the eyepiece, and please consider sharing it with us. The most recent, small outburst was on February 29th, so start looking as soon as possible. The tail may become visible in telescopes later in the month. If so, look for knots and streamers. The tail has been changing nightly in images. Remember, the idea is to observe as often as you can so you can spot interesting changes. Some features will only be visible for a single night. Greg, the astronomer behind this channel, tells me that you will find him out there every clear evening. Because this comet is best observed with some twilight, the view will not be heavily affected by the moon or light pollution. Here is the view from a suburban backyard, Portal 8. Note that there are not many stars to find it by, nor are there many stars in the eyepiece, but if you can find the comet, you will be able to see it easily. Here is the view under country skies, Portal 4. There are more stars visible, but not a lot. And finally, we have the view from a dark site, Portal 2. There are more stars to find it by and more stars in the eyepiece, which may make for a more pleasing view overall. But it does not make the comet any easier to detect and will not affect the high magnification view of the comet's center. The main advantage of a darker sky will be in tracing the tail and seeing faint structures in it. For DSLR astrophotographers, this comet will likely remain small, so you will need at least a 100mm lens and a tracking mount to show more than a small blob. It will likely appear as a round green coma with a thin green tail extending away from the sun and the horizon. The tail will show interesting detail. We are already seeing this in telescope images now, but these same features may soon become accessible to a DSLR. C-2021 S3 PANSTARRS is a comet for observers in the southern hemisphere, visible in small telescopes during the morning hours. This comet began the month at magnitude 9.7, featuring a 2-arc-minute coma with a diffuse condensation at its center. Visible in small telescopes from the southern hemisphere in the morning, it will move from Serpens Cauda into Vulpecula. The best period to view it is from the 1st through the 20th, when the moon will not interfere. Its closest approach to the sun occurred on February 14th at a distance of 1.3 astronomical units. As it moves outward from the inner solar system, it's expected to fade gradually, eventually becoming too faint to observe. This month, we introduce a new comet to our viewers, 13P/Olbers. Discovered by Heinrich Wilhelm Matthias Olbers in Bremen, Germany, on March 6, 1815, he described it simply as a small comet. Later observations in 1887 by William Robert Brooks noted it as an easily visible object in a 9-inch reflector, showcasing a bright nucleus and a faint tail. The comet's last detection was in 1956, achieving a maximum magnitude of 6.5 and a tail length of 1 degree. It was recovered on August 24, 2023, by Alan Hale via the Las Cumbres Observatory in Siding Spring. 13P/Olbers is an evening comet, visible in small telescopes at dark sites or through a 6-inch 15 centimeters telescope under country skies. Its journey toward its closest approach to the sun in late June anticipates a peak brightness of magnitude 6.3 by early July. The comet's current location is in Cetus, with a magnitude of 12.9. It will rapidly increase in brightness as it transitions from Cetus to Taurus by the end of the month. This comet can be observed with small telescopes at dark sites, but only at the very end of the month, from the evening of the 26th to the 31st. For those using a 6-inch, 15 centimeters telescope, it is best visible from the evening of March 10th to the 12th, and once more from March 25th to the 31st. At the eyepiece, seek out a small 40-arc-second coma featuring a diffuse central condensation. This coma is so small that it may be necessary to use detailed star charts to match the stars in the field of view to find it, as it may appear to be a star. Once you suspect that you have found it in a low-power eyepiece, increase the magnification, and if this apparent star appears a little fuzzy, then you have successfully found it. We'll conclude with an early look at C-2023 A3 Tsuchinshan-ATLAS, an evening comet that will become observable in small telescopes from dark sites starting March 30th. It began this month in Libra at magnitude 12.6 with a 1-arc-minute coma. Expected to brighten by about a magnitude, it will transition into Virgo by month's end. April will see us tracking this comet more closely as its visibility improves. Its closest approach to the sun is on September 28, 2024, and as we move toward fall, many are anticipating that it may become a bright naked-eye comet. As always with comets, we won't be able to say anything definitive until fall arrives. March is going to be a great month for comets. If you've been anticipating 12P/Pons-Brooks like we have and are in the northern hemisphere, its time has come. Don't wait until April when the media will tell you it will be at its brightest. That's not meaningful for this comet. Rather, this month we have an opportunity to look as often as circumstances will permit. History tells us that each night will bring an interesting change in the eyepiece, and once this comet has set, why not make it a night of comets by chasing down 13P/Olbers? And if you have a larger telescope, our comet chasing webpage has more comets that you can have a try for. Good luck and happy comet chasing.